When you make something that's not racist, that just shows that where your mind is set on racism. You're talking about a video where a black woman was talking about the comparison of people worshiping ancestors that are not their own, comparing African ancestry, which is not actually worship, but it's veneration, compared to how black people and other people around the world are worshiping a deity that is not of their own ancestry and giving worship to that instead of veneration to their ancestors. And I meant to say veneration on the other video, not ancestry worship, because it's not ancestry worship. But when a person of this persuasion has to make it about race, because the only thing they can see is the color of my skin, the color of the young lady's skin, and talking about those ancestors that came before them, all they can do is make it about race. I wonder if they would have said the same thing if I had compared and said the people of Norway who have become Christian, and you've given up the worship, you've given up the veneration of your ancestors, the Vikings, Valhalla, the Norse mythologies, and you've given that up for what you were forced into, which is Christianity. And yes, those in Norway, Europeans, were forced into Christianity just as well as anybody else was forced into Christianity. Would you have claimed that my statements were racist then? That I'm trying to, prove a racist point with imaginary BS you've concluded? It is not a conclusion of anything based on faith or belief. These things are factual. Prove to me that my ancestors who came to America chose Christianity on their own. Prove to me that the indigenous population of America chose Christianity on their own. Prove to me that the Europeans chose Christianity on their own, that the Africans chose Christianity or Islam on their own, that the Arabs chose Islam on their own, or that anybody in this world chose any of those religions on their own. When you burrow and get to the root of the cause, it has all been by force, and that force usually emanated from the government. Take away Constantine and then Emperor Theodosius forcing all of Rome to be Christian, and then you might have something. But unfortunately, Theodosius in 381 forced the entire Roman Empire to become Christian. And then as the Roman Empire broke up as a city-state or as an empire, the countries that formed under it were already forced into Christianity prior to it, and therefore all of Europe became Christian. Prior to that, depending upon where your ancestors were, they had their own religion, their own gods. And even those their own gods and their own religion was forced on them by their ancient ancestors, whoever was the ruling class. It has always been the ruling class that has decided the religion of any group of people. This is why I care not for any religion, because there are very few that spread without government influence. You see, Buddhism is not a religion as much, or so to speak, because there is no God that you worship. But if you want to call it one, we can call it one. Buddhism did not spread because the government forced people to participate in Buddhism. Now, there are countries that later on forced their people to be Buddhist, but in its origin, it wasn't forced. Taoism, in its origin, it wasn't forced. Alchemy, Hermeticism, was not forced. But Kemetic, Greek, Roman, Christianity, Islam, Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, all those religions, Zoroastrian, forced on the people by rule of government. So who's really your God? Sounds like government's your God. So you have a great day. And remember always, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.